On Blues Radio International, it's Jesse and Audrey taking you back to the heart of the blues, Memphis, Tennessee, for the president and CEO of the Blues Foundation, our dear friend Barbara Newman. Hi, Barbara.
Everybody. Hey, Jesse. Hey, Audrey. How are you guys?
Wonderful.
We're really honored always to have you on the show, and especially as we come toward the close of your tenure in this capacity with the Blues Foundation. We wanted to just take a moment and ask you, what are some of the most rewarding experiences you've had during your presidency?
I think that at the very top of the list, it's really getting to know this community. I came into this, it's around 5.5 years now since the whole process started, and I became engaged with the blues community. I was coming from outside. And when you're the new kid on the block, you're not quite sure how people are going to react to you. It's like going to a new school. Are the kids going to like you, and are you going to make friends? And from day one, from day zero, I found that the blues community could not be warmer, kinder, more welcoming, more engaging. They accepted me from the beginning. They treated me with compassion and respect and care. They allowed me to really create my vision and execute it. And that's my number one takeaway, that it's a little bittersweet to step away from. I've told a lot of people that my last day is September 30th. And when I wake up on October 1st, it's not like I'm going to be gone. I'm not going to be the leader anymore. I'm not going to insert myself where I don't belong. It's time for somebody new to take charge and insert their vision and hopefully build upon what I've done and those who came before me did, whose shoulders I stood on. And but I live in Memphis, and I love this organization, and I love this community, and I have plans once we can come out of our caves again to attend the International Blues Challenge and the Blues Music Awards and go to festivals and see my blues friends, the industry, the fans, the musicians, and stay in touch. So I want to keep the relationships even though I won't have the responsibility anymore.
As someone who came to the blues from a different genre, you've had a chance to listen to a lot of blues over the past few years. How has your view of blues as a musical genre changed?
I recognize now where I did not fully recognize before the variety of what blues means. That it spans a number of different smaller buckets, and it's not just 12 bars. It goes from acoustic to hard-on electric rock. It goes from the Delta to Chicago to California, Texas, Florida, overseas. There are so many different sounds to the blues that are all rooted in early sounds, but they're all very different. And so it's quite exciting and never dull. And I have found music that I wasn't familiar with, and I'm quite a fan.
One of the things that I think has been a hallmark of your presidency is your outreach. You've made an effort to bridge, as I got to witness, the connection that blues music and the Blues Foundation can and should have with the Americana and the folk music community. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I recognized very early on was that the blues community was living in a little bit of an insular bubble. And blues fans knew blues music, and blues artists knew who their fans were. But there was this huge open opportunity across the American root scene in which blues belonged. And in order to expand awareness, which is part of our mission, you have to leave your home sometimes and invite other people in. And that's why I went to other American roots organizations and said, we want a place at the table. We want to be a part of this. We want blues musicians to be heard, blues musicians and their music to be heard, recognized, and respected as part of the American music. And both Americana Music Association and Alliance International have much larger intents. They're not genres. they have multiple genres that fall within their network, and I wanted the blues to be an active part of that. So we started showing up, and in showing up, they started showing up back in return. I'm hearing from blues musicians who've attended those events and have expanded their network beyond that. It's paying off for them, and more people are coming. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue on that direction, and our board, it very much supports it and wants to continue that track and to find other organizations in addition where blues music belongs can be better heard, recognized, and honored.
I was excited to sit in the audience of your showcase at Folk Alliance and hear what the people sitting next to me, who were really unfamiliar with blues, respond to the amazing music that you brought to them. And I all of a sudden saw in the eyes of a very new demographic an interest in blues that had not previously existed. So I think this is an important thing that we need to keep pushing. Another area that you've helped us expand into that's very near and dear to our heart at Blues Radio International is recognizing the international nature of blues and forging and facilitating connections with blues musicians outside of North America.
Well, I've got to give Jay Seelman credit for that. Jay really started that train running, and he put a lot of his energy and a lot of his work into bridging and making the contacts internationally. So he left me with a blueprint, and I recognized and valued the importance of the international blues scene. It's huge, and continued that work of making my way overseas once or twice a year, making my way up to Canada, opening the door to all of the international blues scene and trying to broaden the reach. We brought in a Korean Blues Society. That was very exciting. We expanded some reach into South America. That was exciting. And we continued to build the network. We now include in our board governance that we have to have somebody from Canada and somebody from overseas on our board if at all possible. And we're making sure now with technology and using Skype or Teams or Zoom or whatever conferencing, it's easy to keep our international friends engaged because we can have meetings like this where we can look at each other in the eye through our sunglasses and through our cool sunglasses and talk easier than we could 5 or 10 years ago. So yes, and the work that Blues Radio International has done to bring the blues to a much more oppressed and challenged population is just as important as bringing it to the first world international population.
Well, thank you, Barbara. And I have a question for you because you are in Memphis, and I'm sure many people in the blues community have wondered, what is it like in Memphis right now?
It's like it is everywhere. You know, we're fighting a pandemic. We're trying to keep everybody safe. We're wearing masks and social distancing. A lot of things have not yet opened. Things that are open limited, not as many people, special precautions. We have yet to reopen the Blues Hall of Fame for that reason. We are following the CDC and WHO guidelines and their protocols first, and then we're looking at the mission second. It's most important that we keep our staff and our visitors safe. And because our facility is very dependent upon touch, it adds some extra dynamics of safety that are very hard to manage and monitor. And Memphis is not as bad as Florida, but Tennessee's been targeted as a potential hotspot. And our numbers in Memphis are starting to come down, but positivity rates are still in the double-digit percentages. They're not near the 5% yet. So we're not sure when we're going to reopen. We're writing a plan for reopening. We've already started investing in PPE. But we're going to do it when we feel that it's safe, when our staff can manage the public and the public can feel 100% safe within our facility, even with all the touch. So we'll keep everybody posted on that.
And what is the vibe like at the Blues Foundation offices right now?
Well, we're all working remotely. We're not
Okay.
working in offices. So each of us has different days that we're coming into the physical office. There's certain things you have to physically do there you can't do from home.
Yeah.
When we do have to come together, we've got on our masks and we're socially distanced. But most of the work we're doing is remote through video conferencing and emails. So we're in touch with each other every day, and we're communicating with the community on a daily basis. But we're all doing it remotely from our homes for now.
And have there been any decisions regarding the International Blues Challenge for next year?
We've expanded the rules because we don't know what the challenge is going to look like. We've got a board meeting coming up. It's really a strategic decision that the board's going to have to wrestle with as to whether we have a traditional live version. Do we do something hybrid where some of it's live and some of it's virtual? Do we go on full on virtual? What does it look like? Whatever the situation is in January, the challenge today is that most of our blues societies cannot hold their traditional live events today. And they have to start planning now for if there's going to be whatever in January or February. So we've expanded our rules to allow them to hold virtual challenges. They don't have to do the traditional live judge challenge. They can do a virtual judge challenge. We're not allowing them to judge through streaming. We know that with technology, all you need is for something to buffer or somebody's internet not to be fully on, or something streamed to drop, and that's not fair from one competitor to the next. So they have to collect their content ahead of time and do it in a virtual event that allows for judging where everything's fair and equal. The rules are on the website. The affiliates have been notified of these rules. We've decided that if we do go virtual, we're not going to use challengers can still compete, and it won't count towards their maximum number of times that they can be involved in the IBC. We're going to loosen all of that because we recognize if we go virtual that the networking, the master classes, all the things that happen live on Beale Street won't be able to happen in a virtual event. So we're trying to be fair. We're trying to think through all of the parameters. And in reality, this really is going to be something that new leadership is going to have to wrestle with the board. And hopefully we'll bring some skills to the table on how to create something that's different than what we've seen if it's not safe for people to come to Memphis in January.
And do you foresee the same thing with the Blues Music Awards where that may be virtual, or has there been any discussions about that yet?
It's so far in advance, we don't know what's coming yet. We're in the middle of the Blues Music Award submission process, and submissions are coming in fast and furious. There's a very good, large number already in. We're already approaching 200 submissions, and we still have until the middle of October. So I'm hopeful that the entire complement of music that's been released since last November 1 through this October is going to be a lot of good music. I've seen what's in there. There's a lot of good music to choose from. So I think the nominations will be strong, but we don't know whether there's going to be a vaccine. We don't know how effective the vaccine will be. Those are questions that I imagine it'll be January or February before we really can wrestle with those. We know what it's like to create a virtual show. We did it.
Yeah.
So
it's great.
It's a known quantity at this point. It was very well received. We had over 100, 120, 130,000 views to date. It was universally positively reviewed. So we know what to do. We know how to do it. I'm hoping we can be live.
Yeah.
But it's just, we hear so many different things. Some people are saying by next spring we'll be out again. Others are saying it's going to be another year. It won't be till the summer of 2022. So until we know.
Other than dealing with the pandemic and this terrible crisis that musicians all over the world are facing, what do you think are the biggest challenges going forward for the Blues Foundation as you look into the future?
I think, honestly, the challenges are pandemic related. You can't ignore it. Everything has been turned upside down for blues and for music in general. So not only does the foundation have the challenge of continuing to engage the larger public when we don't know yet how we can execute our events. And the International Blues Challenge, the Keeping the Blues Alive Awards, the Blues Hall of Fame, the facility that houses it, the Blues Music Awards are key to that mission. But also, what is it going to look like when we're out again? What's going to happen to festivals and venues? Are they going to be functioning? Are we going to be seeing a transition to more virtual even when we can be live again? And I think those are big questions to be wrestled with. And those are going to be the biggest challenges, is how to keep things moving forward. After that, it's all going to be related. One of the things that's top of my list, it's been on the top of my list before the pandemic, was how to create content through streaming and through virtual. We knew this was the future before the pandemic hit, and we were starting to do research to figure out what the best platforms were, and then we had a pandemic. So I think that's going to remain on the radar. And I think we've got the financial challenges of recognizing that anything we do for the next couple of years, the entire economic situation has been turned upside down. So we know that there are people out there that have been supporters of ours financially who may not have the resources to support in the next year the economy. So we've got to continue the work of finding sponsors, finding donors, engaging them in our work, helping them understand the value of the resources in us, help us do our work.
One of the most important things that the foundation is doing now is the COVID Relief Fund. And when we spoke to you last time, you'd helped 170 musicians. How many have been helped to date?
I think we're somewhere over 220, 225. We're starting to see some musicians who are struggling so badly, they're coming back and asking for a second round of help. So it might be 240 or 250 actual allocations made, but it's a rough road. A lot of musicians on the early part who had been able to put a little bit aside for the rainy day never could have imagined that in August, September, October, that it would still be pouring. You know, originally when we started hearing about this in February and it became very extreme in March, we all thought that we'd have the curve flattened by June or July. But what we're seeing is that we're not close to having the curve flattened, and we don't know if there's going to be a second wave in October or November. So until we know better what is going to happen in the fall and early winter, is there a second wave, or are we still in a first wave that's continuing to make its rounds? We don't know what's ahead, and musicians who thought they'd be back at events in September, October, November are beginning to recognize that it might be April, May, June, July, August next year before they can really create the income they need. So we're continuing to raise money. We think this fund's going to be necessary for longer than we had originally anticipated.
How can those of us who are listening and watching help you to help these musicians? And then how can the musicians who are in need get in touch with you and get into the process of applying for help?
So there are two ways that people can help. One of the ways is directly through the Blues Foundation. It's very simple. Go to blues.org, click on the donate button, and the scroll down menu will give you options of different ways you can contribute, and choose the COVID-19 fund. And 100% of those resources are going directly to help blues musicians, full-time North American blues musicians who've lost all of their income due to COVID because of the cancellation. Giving money directly to the providers for housing, utilities, cell phone, and key necessities, transportation, connection to the outer world, and housing, and hot water and lights. Those are the key areas where we're supporting. The second way is to keep watching what musicians are doing through their own streaming platforms. Go to their Venmo accounts, go to their PayPal accounts, go to their GoFundMe pages and help them directly. That's going right into their pockets and assisting them so they can pay their bills. And if they can pay their bills, then they're not going to be dependent on our fund. And those musicians who maybe don't have the same access, we can still help. We're helping a lot of front men, but we're helping the side men and women We're helping people that are local and regional musicians who may not be nationally or internationally known, but who are in that club on Beale Street every week, who are playing at a club in Florida, who are playing at a club out on the West Coast, who don't really have a reach beyond their region, but are really well known and well respected in their home base, and they're not able to play because clubs are closing as well. So those are the two ways you can help. And we're going to keep doing what we're doing to make sure that musicians can keep a roof over their head and lights turned on.
And what are the requirements for a musician that needs assistance? How do you gauge their eligibility for assistance?
We're providing assistance, again, it's full-time North American musicians.
Okay.
The United States, sadly, and we don't need to get political, but we don't have a good safety net for the arts or for people in need, whether it's musicians or anybody else. Most of our counterparts outside of the U.S. have a public health care. They have resources and opportunities to make sure that people don't fall between the cracks.
Yeah.
Our capitalist system is a little bit more self-directed, and we don't have that. So there are a lot of musicians who are uninsured or underinsured that need health care. The Heart Fund is there to assist them, and they don't have the public governmental support that they get otherwise. That's the reason we're dealing with North American exclusively. We're looking full-time. This has to be their main source of income. If you work at a plant, if you have a job as a teacher, if you have an income that comes from something else and music supplements that, those musicians are not eligible. You have to show us that it's full-time music. And then we've got to see a list of what's been canceled so that we know that this is COVID related. We're not covering past credit card bills or past due bills that go prior to March or April that came before the pandemic. This is all pandemic related. So there's an application to complete, and we're going to ask you to submit your bills, and we're going to ask you for a list of where your income has come and what's been lost. You can get all that information at blues.org. Right there at the top of the homepage, to click, it takes you to the information on who to email, how to get your information to the right person, and then we'll take it from there with you. We'll hold your hand through it. We're nice.
Yes,
we're there to
certainly are. And
we're not trying to set up walls to prevent people. We're trying to help people get the assistance they need. And if we aren't the right place, if you're not a blues musician, if you're not full-time North American, we'll help you find other avenues to assist you.
And do you have any suggestions for other avenues that you've discovered that have worked in line with the Blues Foundation's COVID-19 fund?
Music Cares is always a really great one.
Okay.
They support the entire music community, not just blues. The Blues and Jazz, the Jazz Foundation also supports blues musicians through they have a COVID fund. There are a lot of resources local, based by state. And we've got a list on our website of about, 5 or 6 that are national, where musicians can go.
And as a blues music fan who's stepping down and passing the torch to the next leader, what are your plans once everything opens back up again? What is something that you're looking forward to the most to just going and enjoying as a fan?
I would love for the International Blues Challenge to happen.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I mean, we just don't know. It's in the dead of winter. I don't know that we're going to have a vaccine yet. I am praying every day that we'll be able to have the Blues Music Awards, and that our very tight blues family can come together again, and we can all be together and see each other, and we might have to wear masks. I'm hoping I can hug on all my friends.
Yes.
After that, I've been attending the Chicago Blues Festival every year. It's a major free festival in the city of Chicago. We've had a really great relationship with them. I really miss being there this June. I'm hoping that I can be there next June. And then Paul Benjamin has promised me that I was supposed to make it to the North Atlantic Blues Festival. I've been trying to go for years, and I was going to try to go this summer, and it just keeps on not happening. So as soon as I can get up to Maine in July, he's promised me some lobster.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to make my way there. So, I've got some international festivals that I'd like to attend that I haven't made it to. I'll just do it on my own dime and get over there and see my friends and continue being out there and being a part of it as a fan, not as a worker bee.
Do you have any closing thoughts to our audience? We've got people all around the world who are admiring you and the great work you've done at the foundation. Do you have any thoughts to share with them?
Just let's all stick together. I've been very discouraged by so much negative energy on so many fronts. And there's a lot that we need to be fixing in our world. I think that this pandemic, along with some of the other issues around systemic racism, have really lit a fire under us and made us aware. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. But I also would like for us to come together with a positive message and lift each other up rather than tear each other down through our frustrations. So I'm really hopeful that all of us can unite and make it better. That we just have to keep fighting the fight on all fronts to make our world a place and utilize the pain that we're in the middle of the pandemic where we're all isolated to make things better. Let's turn the tide. All be in it together. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And as long as we hold each other up and metaphorically hold each other's hands through it, we'll get on the other side.
Yes, we will.
Well, on behalf of Blues Radio International and on behalf of blues musicians, blues fans, the people who work at venues, running festivals and agencies, everyone who cares about blues around the world, thank you, Barbara Newman, for everything you've done and are continuing to do for blues and blues musicians.
Well, thank you, Jesse. I have to say, I've got about 6 more weeks, so I don't know what it's going to look like on October 1st. I guess I'll wake up that morning and figure out what's next. Right now, my main agenda item is to shepherd us to a transition and put all the things in place for whoever succeeds me to have the greatest success. It is a very bittersweet goodbye for me because I have loved this work more than I can express in words. It's been an ultimate joy. It's been the high point of my professional career. It's been a high point of my personal life. But the time is right for me and for the organization. I'm a big believer in the not-for-profit world that leadership has to transition every 5 or 6 years. You have to keep bringing new people and new ideas to the table, and it would be irresponsible of me to try to keep pushing through longer than is right. And I've got a bunch of things on my agenda, personally, family, travel again, and who knows what else. But I'm going to be there for the Blues Foundation. I might not be the person on the camera, and I'm certainly not going to get in the way of the leadership, but I'm going to be there in the bleachers cheering on the organization and hoping to see it continue to grow and expand its reach and bring more people to the music and help these musicians be heard. All of them, not any single musician. Every single one of them needs to have an audience. That's how you keep the music fresh and out there. And we don't want to lose the legacy of what came before us and where this music came from.
Amen.
Well, on behalf of me and Audrey, we are honored to be on camera with you and hope to continue to do so in the future. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us today.
I appreciate you so much.
We do. Thank you.
We love you, Barbara.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Take
Have
care.
a wonderful
Bye.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.